great. Okay, we'll start the webinar. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Liz Laporte, and I'm the founder of Laporte Education Advising. I work with students from around the East Bay, San Francisco, and other parts to navigate that college admission process. I've been happy to have admission counselors for the past few months coming online to tell us all about their universities and their great programs. And today I'm really happy to have Britt Fernandes here from the University of British Columbia. And she'll be giving us sort of a tour of the university and all its excellent programs. So I'd like to welcome you, Britt, to our webinar.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, and thank you to those of you who have joined us so far. It's such a pleasure. I know that Zoom fatigue is a real thing, so we appreciate you taking the extra time to find out a bit more about UBC.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that's so great. And I know this is a busy season for you all. How's it going with your current, admission cycle? How are things going up there?
We're doing really well. We're like many schools, we are working quite remotely right now. So you see my beautiful virtual background. I'm actually coming to you from my home in Vancouver. But we're continuing to process our applications for this upcoming year, keeping in mind UBC has been entirely remote for this entire semester and the entire year. So we're continuing to kind of monitor the COVID-19 situation. We'll be keeping an eye on that when it comes to the future, but hopefully by the time you'd be looking to come to UBC, things will be looking a little bit more normal again.
Great. Yeah, we're all waiting for the vaccine to happen, and I know I can't wait for this new school year to happen so that we can kind of get back to some normalcy and actually see people in classrooms and be able to say hi to professors, and it's coming. So we'll just have to be a little more patient, but it's nice to know what the options are as families kind of start to plan and collect colleges for their college list. So it's good to know everything we can about it. And you mentioned you have a presentation, if you'd like to sort of start out with that. And I'd like to just emphasize for anybody who's watching, please feel free to use your chat button. I'll be monitoring that while Britt is going through her presentation. So please feel free to ask questions. And I know Britt sent me several links that are very practical, and I will send those to all our attendees after the meeting. So that was very helpful. So Britt, yeah, take it away, and I'll be looking at the chat, and we'll go from there.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much again. To start off with as well, I will share a link in the chat. This is for those of you who do feel like UBC might sound like an interesting option for you. Please feel free to fill that out. It's our virtual inquiry card. It'll link you to creating something called a future student portal. There you'll get information about when our application updates and opens for the next few years. If there's any events in the future when we're actually in person and closer to you, you'll also get notifications about those. And then of course, I will send an email to all the students who fill that out. Oh, sorry, are we frozen? Can you guys hear me? If you can, just let me know by sending a message in the chat. Yeah, we're all good. Okay, perfect. It looked like we were frozen there for a second. As long as it's all good for you guys, awesome. Thank you for your patience. The wonderful technical world here. So anyways, essentially that's our virtual inquiry card. Totally optional, but I will send an email with some of the links that we're talking about a little bit later on as well. So you don't have to feel like you have to take notes and things like that as well. Without further ado, I will start sharing the screen. It looks like perfect. We're all back going again. Bear with me one moment. Okay. So as I mentioned, my name's Britt. I'm an associate recruiter and advisor at the University of British Columbia. I do have a brief presentation to share a little bit of information about UBC, focusing in on the academic excellence that it's known for. We have 2 different campus locations, so we'll go through that in a little bit of detail. And then I'll also talk about what UBC calls active learning. So opportunities for you to really make the most of your time as an undergraduate. Now, as many of you likely already know, UBC is consistently ranked among the top universities worldwide. We are a top 40 public research institution, and we're also ranked in the top 20 in many of the different disciplines that we offer. So regardless of which field of study you're planning on pursuing your degree within, you can rest assured that at UBC, you will be getting a high level of academic excellence when you're studying, and you'll be taught by people who are top of their field. Now, we do have a low student to professor ratio of 15:1. So not only are you going to be learning from those experts in their field, but you're going to have the opportunity to engage with them. We really encourage you, make the most of those connections. A lot of our professors typically give us the feedback that they want to see more of their students. So they'll all have office hours, and that's time when you can meet with them one-on-one, get some feedback on your assignments, and learn about what they're researching as well. Now, although that is a great statistic to share, two more important statistics that I always like to share with students are that we're ranked #1 in the world for taking urgent action to combat climate change and its effects. We offer over 750 different climate change and sustainability related courses and 32 different majors that relate to it at the undergraduate level. We also consider our campuses living laboratories, so we use them to enact real-time change before taking those policies onto a larger level. So one very specific example of how we've done this is since 2011, we've reduced our energy consumption on campus by 16 gigawatt hours. Now, I know 16 doesn't sound like a very big number, but it's the equivalent to taking 1,500 cars off the road permanently. Now, another statistic, and my absolute favorite, is that we're ranked the most international university in North America. We're home to just over 18,000 international students representing 166 different countries around the world. Now, the reason that this is one of my favorite statistics is because I just feel like it really shows that you're not going to be just learning from your professors at UBC. You're going to be learning from your peers. You're going to be hearing ideas shared by students representing all the different corners of the globe. And when you graduate from UBC, you truly will have a global perspective. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time giving you an in-depth analysis of Canada. You guys are our next door neighbors down there. But one thing I do always like to highlight to students is that we do offer a 3-year post-graduation work permit. It's an extremely flexible work permit, meaning you don't have to have work lined up in advance to take advantage of it. You don't have to stay in one position or even in one city. So if you do graduate from a university in Canada, not just UBC, you would be eligible for this. And if you decide to fall in love with the country and start your career here post-graduation, that's certainly a possibility. Many different universities, such as UBC, we do have departments dedicated to providing immigration consultancy. So if you do have questions as you're going along this period, they're definitely there to help. Now, as I touched on a little bit at the beginning, although we are one university, we do have 2 unique campuses. So our original campus is located in the city of Vancouver, and it's home to approximately 45,000 undergraduate students. We also have a newer state-of-the-art campus, and this is located in the Okanagan, home to just over 9,000 undergraduate students. So to help you get a little bit of an idea where we're talking in terms of geography here, I have the 2 cities put on the map here. We'll do a little bit of a deeper dive there. Although they looked close together, they are actually a 4-hour drive or 1-hour flight apart. So what this means is that you're not going to be taking some classes at one campus and some classes at the other. Instead, you'd be doing a little bit of research, figuring out which campus, which city is the right fit for you. You'd be indicating that on your application, then you'd be completing your entire degree at that one campus. So to help give you a little bit of a better idea about what the strengths of each campus are, we'll do a brief overview starting with the Vancouver campus, since that's where I'm currently located. So the city of Vancouver itself is Canada's 3rd largest city. It's home to approximately 2.4 million people, and it's an extremely multicultural and diverse community. So 45% of people born or living in Vancouver were born outside of Canada, and 25% speak a first language other than English. Like most of the West Coast, we are very well known for our stunning natural beauty. So lots of oceans, lakes, mountains, forests, all of that can be found in Vancouver. Now, we do have a very, very mild climate. So what this means is that you're typically not going to get any snow in the city of Vancouver itself. We're going to have more of those wet and rainy winters with the nice kind of warm summers. That being said, tons of mountains nearby. So skiing, snowboarding, snowshoeing, all those winter sports are just a stone's throw away from Vancouver. Many students do tend to go up there on their weekends, as well as sometimes even after class to hit the slopes. Now, the Vancouver campus itself is located on the Point Grey Peninsula. So it's surrounded on 3 sides by water, with the Pacific Spirit National Park in behind. It is a self-contained campus, so everything you can possibly desire can be found there on campus, from 13 different student residences to restaurants, cafes, libraries, bookstores, botanical gardens, museums. You name it, the UBC Vancouver campus has it. We even have our own police station and firehouse. We have our own hospital on campus. So although it is a self-contained community and everything you can desire can be found there, you're still only about 20 minutes by bus to downtown Vancouver. So when we're looking at this picture here, downtown Vancouver is just where I'm circling with my mouse. And then of course, all the mountains that we talked about are kind of on the side there. Both within the city of Vancouver and the Vancouver campus, there very much is that large campus feel. There's constant events and activities going on, lots of students, even on the weekends. It really much is a buzzing atmosphere. Now, we do recognize that that large campus feel isn't the right fit for everyone. So for those of you who think that sounds maybe a little intimidating, our Okanagan campus might be a better fit for you. So it's located in the city of Kelowna, which is roughly, as we talked about 3 to 4 hours east of Vancouver. Kelowna itself is actually ranked among the top 3 cities in Canada for quality of life, and it's absolutely easy to see why. It's stunningly beautiful. The downtown core of Kelowna is actually located on the beautiful Lake Okanagan, and there's over 60 different lakes in the region. People living in Kelowna kind of refer to it as their Four Seasons playground. So in the winter time, you will be getting that snow there. So all the different winter sports are at play. Lots of great world-class ski resorts nearby, such as Big White. In the summertime, people take advantage of that beautiful hot weather. So lots of lake activities, lots of outdoor time, lots of hiking. All of that can be taken advantage of in Kelowna. Kelowna itself is a very young and vibrant community. As I mentioned, the downtown core is right on that lakefront. Lots of really unique boutique coffee shops, restaurants, cafes. It's also the most entrepreneurial community in Canada, and it's home to a $1 billion booming tech industry. So if you're interested in making some of those connections, even at an undergraduate level, Kelowna can be a really great bet there too. Now, I don't know if any of you remember Club Penguin, but if you do, Club Penguin originated in Kelowna. It's actually our Disney headquarters in Canada as well, the only one that's located out of LA at the moment. Now, the Okanagan campus, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, is our newer state-of-the-art campus. So we're talking kind of a mid-sized campus here. And one of the main differences that you're going to be looking at between the Vancouver and the Okanagan campus is that the Okanagan campus does have a more close-knit community feel. So here it's not uncommon to run into some of the same students in your classes as you progress throughout your degree. It's not uncommon to run into your professor in that Starbucks lineup between class. This is a really great opportunity if you do really want to build that sense of community. Now, regardless of which of these 2 campuses you do decide to attend, you are still having access to state-of-the-art facilities. So on campus here, you have brand new, beautiful student residences. There's athletic facilities, as you can see a few of them in the photo here. Restaurants, cafes, there's a stunning network of trails around there. You do still have access to the same opportunities. So things that we'll talk about a little bit later, co-op, study abroad, those are available regardless of which of the 2 campuses you attend. And like the Vancouver campus, you're about 20 minutes by bus to downtown Kelowna. So you're never too far removed from the city and everything that's going on there as well. Regardless of which one you decide to attend, you are still graduating with that universally recognizable UBC degree. The choice when deciding between the 2 campuses, Do consider the different weather of the different locations. Once again, Kelowna, you will get that 4 seasons. Consider the size that you're looking for in your university experience, and then do have a look at the programs as well. The majority of our key programs are going to be offered at both campuses, but some of our more boutique programs may be only offered at one or the other. So this can also help you narrow down which campus might be the right fit. Now, also regardless of which campus you decide to attend, first-year housing is guaranteed when you submit an application by May 1st. Now, I do always kind of like to pause here. Our housing is a little bit different than what you come to expect in many different American institutions, in that the majority of our rooms are what you see in this picture here, which is a connected single. So students get their own individual room connected to the room next door with a shared bathroom that you're only sharing with that one other student. Of course, there's still lots of wonderful common areas on every floor. Our residence advisors hold over 200 events in residence every year alone. So there's plenty of opportunity to get to meet all your flatmates and build that sense of community within residence. But for the majority of the rooms, you're going to have your own private space to study and relax at the end of the day. So 100% of the rooms on the Okanagan campus are in this style and about 70% on the Vancouver campus. Now, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, I'm going to dive a little bit into active learning. So at UBC, we do recognize that learning is an experience. And just as each and every one of you is unique, so too should be your degree. You're only going to be an undergraduate student once, so we encourage you to take advantage of all these different opportunities that sound interesting to you. Now, because we have a little bit shorter of a time today, I'm not going to go through each and every one of these, but if you do have some questions about something and we don't cover it, feel free to let us know in the chat a little bit later on, or follow up at a later date too, and we're happy to provide more information on that for you. But to start off with, as I mentioned earlier, we are a top 40 research institution, and along with that does come the opportunity to engage in research, starting even at an undergraduate level, as early as your first few years. You don't need to be a traditional sciences type of student to take advantage of these research opportunities. Research opportunities are available across a wide variety of disciplines, including arts and commerce. And one of the keys to this is going to be making those connections with your professor. Like I was mentioning a bit earlier, office hours are a really great time. Start learning about what they're researching and see if they have any opportunities available. So I do always like to pause here and share the story of the student in the background here. Her name was Michelle Kunamoto, and she was a self-professed Star Trek nerd. So in about the third year of her Bachelor of Science degree, she took a class that just sounded purely interesting to her. And I'm going to butcher the name because I always do, but it's astrobiology and exoplanets. And by the end of this class, she had decided this was something she was truly passionate about. So she went and spoke to her professor, Dr. Jamie Matthews, to see if there was any possibility of her getting some research funding. Not only did Michelle go on to get some research funding, but during her time, she went on to discover 3 brand new planets. Now, Michelle is still currently a UBC student. She's now completing her PhD, and to date, she's discovered 17 different planets, one of which is potentially habitable. Now, the reason that I like to share Michelle's story is not just because she's amazing, but it's because it's what I'd like to encourage all of you to do. Take those random one-off classes that sound interesting to you. Make those connections with your professors and see what opportunities are available to you. Because just like Michelle, you never know where they're going to be leading you in your future career. And speaking of future careers, I do always like to talk for a moment or two about work experience here in Canada. As an international student in Canada, you are eligible to work both on and off campus, part-time during the school year or full-time during the summers. UBC has many different opportunities and resources available to you as a student. We have Center for Involvement in Careers. They hold all sorts of wonderful workshops, alumni events, networking events, you name it. We also have some great programs such as our Work Learn program. But one program in particular that I do always like to highlight is our Cooperative Education or Co-op program. Essentially, this is similar to an internship in the States, where it's professional paid work experience in your field of study as part of your degree. One important thing to keep in mind is you are going to be paid a competitive wage during this time. So typically students won't be taking any classes when they're doing a co-op work term. And you typically do between 1 and 3 different co-op work terms. So it can give you the opportunity to try out some different areas within your field, try out some different employers. Maybe you find out you really enjoy working for a large scale corporation, or maybe you're more of an entrepreneurial startup type of person. This is where you get the opportunity to put all of those classroom experiences into the real world and try this out and make those connections before you graduate. Now, it is an extremely successful program, and 90% of students who complete the co-op program gain employment within 1 month of graduation. And quite often, this is with one of their co-op employers because they've made such great connections. Of course, the positions are going to vary depending on your area of study, but we have co-op partners all around the world, both within the United States and Canada, as well as overseas. So it does depend on your area of interest and where you're hoping to go with your future career as well. And finally, I do always like to mention clubs because one really important part of the university experience is meeting other students. Clubs can be a great way to expand your interests, focus in on some of those academic interests, and just meet new people. At UBC, we do have over 360 different student-run clubs. As I mentioned, these vary widely from social to cultural to academic in nature. You name it, UBC has it. And if by some chance there's a particular club that you're really looking for that doesn't exist yet, you can also get some funding from the UBC to start your own club too. But just to give you an idea of some of the range of clubs that exist out there, as you can see on screen, UBC Ski and Board Club. We have a Lego club if you're really interested in Lego. There's Underwater Hockey Club, which also I'm not entirely sure how underwater hockey works, but if you're interested in that, definitely check it out. And my personal favorite, which is the Ice Cream Club on the Okanagan campus. One fun fact about Canadians is despite the fact that a lot of Canada has a very cold climate, we actually have one of the highest rates of ice cream consumption per capita. So if you want to channel that inner Canadian in you, have some ice cream in the middle of the winter, definitely join that ice cream club when you get to campus. All right, now I know it's probably still a little while away before we're considering submitting applications, but I do always like to share a little bit of information about UBC's application in general and how it can differ from some of the different American institutions. So to start off with, we don't do early action or early decision. So there's no need to rush and try and get your application in those early days when it's very stressful. We encourage you, take your time, proofread your answers. And you have typically until January 15th to submit your application. So once again, no need to rush there. Our application isn't on the Common App, so you are going to be applying directly on our website, which is you.ubc.ca. All of the information and everything that you need will be available there for you. Not to be concerned if you're starting to submit your application and you realize, I didn't submit a transcript. That's because there's typically a later deadline for things like transcripts, any kind of test scores. So don't be too concerned. Finish up your application. We'll send you an email a little bit later on, letting you know what documents we require from you and when those deadlines are. But in the past, those deadlines typically occur around March 15th. Now at UBC, we do have 261 different undergraduate majors that are housed within 42 different bachelor degree programs. Now I know some of you may know exactly what you're planning on studying already, and others of you may still be a little bit unsure. Now, for those of you that are unsure, I do have some good news, and that's at UBC, you're not declaring your major at the time you apply. Instead, you're applying directly to that bachelor's degree program that holds the most areas of interest. So say you're trying to decide between, international relations and political science. Well, you'd look on our website and you see that both of those are housed within the Bachelor of Arts degree. So on your application, you'd apply to the Bachelor of Arts degree. And once admitted, you'd complete a general first year or two, where you're taking courses from those different areas of interest as well as any others before you officially declare your major a little bit later on. So we are a bit unique in that you can't go in undecided. You do still need to decide on that bachelor's degree program, but you don't have to necessarily declare your specific major. Once again, all this information is available on our website. If you think that UBC sounds like it might be a place for you, never too early, start having a look at those different programs and see what bachelor's degree program they fall under. Now, on your application, you're also going to get a first choice program and a second choice program. And you can really use these in a lot of ways as you like. You could do, for example, your first choice program as the Bachelor of Arts on the Okanagan campus, and then your second choice program is the Bachelor of Arts on Vancouver. Or you can mix and match between two completely different bachelor's degree programs on the same campus. Once again, up to you how you'd like to use those, but do keep in mind that we're going to be primarily reviewing you for access to your first choice program. So the order that you're writing those on your application does matter. Now, in terms of our general curriculum requirements for students kind of studying the traditional American curriculum, we're going to be looking for 4 years of English literature and composition, along with 3 years of mathematics. In typical years, we do ask for an SAT or an ACT with writing. This past year, we were test optional. We haven't released a formal policy for years going forward, but we do hope there's going to be a more formal announcement kind of in the coming months here. But I do like to pause and just say, although we haven't released our formal testing policy, please, please, please do not be putting yourself in any unsafe or stressful situations trying to drive crazy places and get these tests. We would never prevent a student from applying who was unable to attain one of these tests, and we do have methods in place to provide exemptions if it's not available for you. So do stay tuned, check back on our website a little bit closer too for a more formal policy, but in the meantime, please do not be stressing about that. Now, in addition to those general requirements, different programs will have faculty-specific requirements that you may need to meet. So for example, if you're applying to the Bachelor of Commerce, we're also going to be needing to see some pre-calculus. All of this information, once again, is available on our website. You can just select that you're studying the American curriculum and it'll drop down from there. If we have anyone here who's currently studying the IB diploma, we have our own set of curriculum requirements there on our website. Essentially, same process. There will be faculty specific as well as the general requirement of completing your IB diploma. For anyone who's completing courses such as APs, IBs, you can be eligible for some first year credit. So we do encourage you keep those grades up right until the very end, because it can mean that you're taking less courses in university and paying less tuition as well. Now, in terms of what we're looking at when we evaluate your application, our primary focus is going to be your academic performance. And for that, we'll be focusing in on your junior and senior year. That being said, we do have a holistic application. So we also look at something called the UBC Personal Profile. And this is 5 short answer questions where you have the opportunity to tell us a little bit more about yourself. What are some of the challenges you've overcome? What are some of your passions and interests? What are you hoping to do in post-secondary? One of the challenges of the UBC Personal Profile can be that it's so short. They're 250 words in length, so not a full essay. So I do encourage you, leave yourself lots of time, spend some time on these personal profiles. The majority of students who are applying to UBC are very, very academically strong. So your personal profile can be one of those places where you set yourself apart. Now, in addition, certain programs such as the Bachelor of Commerce ask for a video interview. If you're applying to a fine arts program or architecture, we will also ask for a portfolio. All this information is available on our website. And in those cases, such as portfolios, they're typically, once again, due a little bit later on. And then finally, we look at the breadth, relevancy, and rigor of the courses that you've been taking. So have you been challenging yourself academically? Have you been taking courses relevant to your area of study? Once again, things like honors, AP, IB, all of that we do take into account for rigor when we determine holistically whether you're going to receive an offer of admission. Great note I always like to share with students, we don't track things like demonstrated interest. So really what we're looking for is what's here on the screen right now. Now, I do always like to spend a little bit of time talking about finances. As you can see on screen here, we do have a breakdown of what a typical first year at UBC can cost. And we've got it in Canadian dollars and American dollars as well. One thing to keep in mind is tuition at UBC is calculated based on the number of credits or courses that you're taking, as well as your status within Canada. So this tuition amount can vary a bit depending on what faculty you're studying within. Some of our more rigorous faculties, such as applied science or engineering, students take a higher course load. So it's not uncommon to see a little bit higher than this there. Of course, once again, we've calculated in this if you choose to live on campus. But I do encourage each and every student, we have a wonderful cost calculator on our UBC website. I'll share that in the chat with us a little bit later on, so you have access to it as well. I encourage you put all of your specific information in there and help generate a little bit more of an accurate idea based on what you're planning on studying in terms of what you could expect your first year to cost. Now, if we do have anyone who's a Canadian citizen or permanent resident in the audience here today, you would be eligible for our domestic tuition rate. So I don't currently have that listed on the screen, but once again, use that cost calculator, put in your specific information. You would also be eligible for Canadian scholarships. So with those Canadian scholarships, typically comes an earlier application deadline to be automatically considered for them. In the past, that has been December 1st. We haven't released that date for this upcoming year just yet, but do check back on the website. It will be a little bit of an earlier application there. Now, for anyone who is interested in accessing financial assistance, UBC is a Title IV institution, which means you can use your FAFSA loans here. We do, once again, wonderful website has all the different information available there. I'll share that in the chat a little bit later on. Now, we can't talk about costs without also talking about scholarships. So UBC does devote over $30 million annually to scholarships for international students. And there's two key types to be aware of. The first are our entrance awards, and I have wonderful news, and that's automatic evaluation. No need to submit anything additional. As long as you get your application in by that January 15th deadline, we're automatically going to review you for access to these awards. They can range from a $10,000 one-time award to a $20,000 award that reoccurs annually throughout your degree. For these, we're going to be looking at that academic performance as well as your personal profile. So once again, spend some time on that personal profile because we will be looking at it with an eye to giving you funding. Now, for students who have a very high level of financial need, we wouldn't be able to attend UBC otherwise. We do also have our International Scholars Awards. So these are need and merit-based awards designed for students who are kind of top of their class academically and emerging leaders in society. These do require a separate application as well as nomination by your high school counselor. So if anyone here feels like this might apply to you, feel free to have a chat with me at the end. We can share a little bit more information. But one thing to kind of keep in mind, there is that earlier deadline. The nomination packages typically come available about September or October as well. All right, so I know we've gone through quite a bit of information very quickly there. So just to briefly summarize, by choosing to study at UBC, you will be surrounding yourself by academic excellence. You'll have the option of studying at one of our two wonderful campuses, whether that's the Vancouver campus or the Okanagan campus. And whether you choose to take part in a study abroad term or some athletics varsity level sports, we do encourage you to customize your time as a UBC student and really make the most of your undergraduate studies. There are, of course, lots of different ways to connect with us. Although we're not traveling much these days, I do encourage you to still see our campus with our virtual live campus tours. So these are held by our amazing team of student ambassadors. It's the perfect way to hear firsthand from a UBC student what it's actually like to attend UBC. So they're offered 5 days a week and they're available for both campuses. Once again, I do encourage you sign up for one of those and get a little bit of an idea of what the campus feels like. Of course, we're also on all the different social medias, including TikTok. So if you're interested in seeing more of the student experience, that's also a wonderful resource for you. So I'm just going to put my contact information there on the screen. You're more than welcome, whether it's today or whether it's months from now, if there are specific questions that are coming up, you're more than welcome to get in touch at any stage. And without further ado, I'll stop sharing my screen and I'll welcome everyone back. See if there's any questions that have come in.
Looks like there is a question from Abby. Does UBC have a semester or trimester system? Great question.
That is a wonderful question. So we do have a trimester system, 3 semesters a year. However, most UBC students are only going to attend for 2 semesters, and that's going to be our fall and our spring semester. Although we do have a summer semester as well, many of the different programs don't actually offer courses there. So it's very few programs that actually have that option of attending in the summer. Most students instead will choose to take that time kind of from late April when your exams finish all the way up until September and either go home, visit family, go travel, go work, completely up to you. Once again, some of the programs such as Bachelor of Arts do offer some courses, so that is a possibility, but it's not for every single program.
And I have a question. I think we may have a dual citizen in the audience in Rowan. Can you give us just a little bit of an idea about the tuition? I know you didn't have the domestic, Canadian domestic facts there, but can you give us some idea?
I'm sorry, I don't have the exact number ready on hand. My apologies. I do work primarily with international students most of the time. I can start off, I'll share you the Canadian scholarships link, just so you have that. And let me see if I can quickly pull up the domestic tuition rate.
I think, as I recall, it sounds so good. I mean, I saw something about $5,000 tuition. But it just sounds like a dream.
So for example, to give you a little bit of an idea at scale, per credit, which is a unit of course measurement, typically the domestic tuition rate is going to be about 183 Canadian dollars, as opposed to similarly for the international students, it's going to be about $1,300. So it is quite a difference there. I've got the link to the page here as well, which I'll pop into the chat. So once again, if you have Canadian citizenship or permanent residency, we're not doing this based off of where you're currently residing. You are eligible for that domestic tuition rate. So on your application, you'll indicate that you have Canadian citizenship. If anyone as well is currently in the process of getting their Canadian citizenship or permanent residency, if you have it at the time of your application, indicate that on your application. If you don't have it just yet, indicate your status as an international student for now, and we can always update your status a little bit later on once your documentation comes through.
Yeah, and I have a question. Can you give us a little bit of a background about the athletic situation at UBC? Are you a Division I, as we would call it here in the States, or how does that piece work? Do you happen to have that information?
I do have some of that information. My apologies, I'm not the biggest expert on varsity athletics, but we do have varsity athletics offered at both of our different campuses. We participate in the NAIA League within Canada and the U Sport League. So there's two different leagues that we participate in. We also offer a wide variety of sports at the competitive club level, as well as the intramural level. So if you're the varying different degrees of athletics, there's lots of different opportunities for you. We have a lot of unique athletics as well, both at the competitive club and the varsity level. So for one example, at some of the competitive clubs, we have alpine skiing, we have Quidditch. So if you want to channel your inner Harry Potter nerd, we actually won some championships in it not too long ago. But of course, all your standard sports, kind of basketball, volleyball, swimming, those are available at the varsity level on both campuses.
And are there athletic scholarships as well, like we have here?
Not the same as American athletics scholarships. So our first step, if you are an athlete and you're interested in attending UBC, is going to be connecting directly with the coaches. So we do have a prospect student varsity form. It's available on our website. There's a separate one for Okanagan as well as a separate one for Vancouver. Fill out the one for the campus that you're interested in attending, and our athletic coaches will be in touch with further information there. In general, the main scholarships that you're still going to be looking towards are those ones that we chatted about a little bit earlier. But of course, each and every situation will be a bit unique. So those coaches will be your best source of information there.
Great. And Britt, do you have an idea about the student population from this area of the world up in UBC? How many Californians, or the numbers of East Bay students or San Francisco?
My apologies. We don't track exactly that way, partly because, once again, when UBC is evaluating applications, we're looking at mainly just two things, whether you have Canadian citizenship or whether you're an international student. So For the international students, we don't typically, we don't have quotas for particular areas. We're evaluating you comparatively based on all the other students who've submitted an application to the similar program. What I can tell you is a quarter of the student population is international. And within that quarter of the student population, one of the top countries represented is the United States of America, and California being one of the largest numbers. The West Coast, we see huge numbers of students from, so also you'll see some of your neighbors from Washington and Oregon joining you at UBC as well. But definitely not uncommon. There will be lots of American students and Californians around on campus. My manager is actually a California from the Bay Area as well. So there's plenty of us around. You definitely won't be alone, but I'm sorry, I don't have the specific statistic for this year.
And here's a question. When do students find out when they've been accepted?
That's a great question. So we do ours a little bit unique as well in that we don't have one set decision day. Offers of admission come out on a rolling basis, and they begin sometime in February and continue all the way into April. Now, we know that May 1st is a huge deadline for a lot of American institutions, so you will hear back from UBC before that point. And typically about 2 weeks after you receive your admissions decision is when you will find out also if you've received any scholarships. But that's starting a little bit later. If you're one of those really early ones and you hear in February, it might take a little bit longer to hear back about your funding as well. But please don't be concerned. It's not uncommon. If your friend is also applied to UBC and they've heard back, it doesn't mean anything bad that you have not heard back. It is a rolling basis. So it's going to depend partly when you get those other documents to us and when we have the opportunity to evaluate your application.
Mm-hmm. Yes, this is another great question. Do you have a sense of the international acceptance, sort of the rate of acceptance for the international students?
Once again, I don't have a particular number for you. It's going to vary by program to program, as well as any given intake. So you are being evaluated comparatively with the other group of students. In general, some of our more competitive programs tend to be the Bachelor of Science, the Bachelor of Applied Science, which is engineering, the Bachelor of Commerce, as well as our new program, which is the Bachelor of Design in Architecture, are some of our most highly competitive programs. Some of our other programs, such as the Bachelor of Arts, are some of our larger programs. So they have much more seats available for students and tend to have a little bit more flexibility. As well, some of our boutique programs, I encourage you, I know we mentioned that there's 261 different programs. So I kind of encourage everyone, have a look at that program page, because you may think automatically, oh, I'm Bachelor of Science, but there are so many other programs offered there that also revolve around science. So food, nutrition, and health, dietetics. We have things like urban conservation, all these different programs as well, which are more boutique and can be a little bit more flexible in terms of evaluating applications, and are really great options as well to get that UBC degree.
Mm-hmm. Great. I know you sent me, Britt, some links, and I'm not sure if you have those handy, but those were great links to put in, and I'm happy to send those to the folks who are attending. Any way that they can sort of get their names onto that list of interested students, that would be something to I would imagine that would be something to do right away, so they can receive updates about events or online kinds of informational sessions.
Perfect. And if you'll bear with me one moment, I'm just popping those in the chat.
Great,
I think
you.
I shared the scholarships for Canadian students earlier. I'll also share the international scholarships. So this is also where those nomination packages for those merit and need-based scholarships will be posted a little bit later on as well. So there's the 3 of those there too. And I'll repost that link that I shared at the beginning. We have that right here. So once again, if you're interested in staying in touch with UBC, attending a virtual live campus tour, I do encourage you to fill out that link there, as that'll be a great way to stay in touch. And then, as I mentioned, anyone who has completed that link, I will follow up and send some of these links so you don't have to worry about frantically screenshotting or copying them down. You'll also have those.
Thank you. And can you talk just a tiny little bit about the visa situation and how students make that transition?
Yeah, well, that's a wonderful question. So as an international student, you will need a study permit to come and visit and attend UBC. Typically, great news, it's not typically a very convoluted process. You don't need to begin it at the time of your application. In fact, you do often require your letter of admission before you can even begin that process. So typically, we recommend hold off until you get that offer of admission, and then you can start that process. Once again, mostly completed online. We do have some wonderful video tutorials that are available to kind of step you through that process. But if you do encounter any bumps or have any questions, we have a team of regulated immigration and citizenship consultants of Canada. They're called our International Student Advisors, and they're available to you as a student to help your process with any of those documents. Once again, if you decide a postgraduate work permit is something you're also interested in, they can help you through that process as well. But once again, shouldn't take too long. You don't need to typically worry about it until you've received that offer letter.
And Britt, just lastly, I'm not sure, what our audience knows about the sort of the general overview of Canadian universities, but it's my understanding they're all public. And can you talk a little bit about that? It's unique for us down here in the States.
Yeah, of course. So one of the unique things about Canadian institutions, as you mentioned, is that the majority of them are public institutions, which means we receive funding directly from our government. We put a huge amount of our GDP invested in post-secondary education, which is why Canada is home to some very top universities around the world. This is also why you'll see those things such as the difference between domestic and international tuition. It's because the Canadian government is actively funding those Canadian residents' tuition. Once again, it just ensures that you're going to be getting a very high quality of education, that there's access available for all. Once again, all the different universities will have some different processes, but if you're considering Canada in general, there's a few things that are kind of common across the board. Some things that we talked about already in regards to UBC, but co-op generally kind of available across the board in Canada. So many different institutions will offer it, which is a little bit unique from internships. In general, with many Canadian institutions as well, you won't see things like demonstrated interest. You won't require letters of recommendation, just like at UBC. No reference letters are needed. Typically, we're kind of focusing in a little bit more on those academics. And if we have an essay section, such as UBC, that'll be one of the aspects we're looking at for your application as well. Actually, one other unique thing, kind of when we're talking in regards to Canadian institutions versus American institutions, is in general in Canada, most universities aren't necessarily known for one event or one activity. You'll see a lot of universities in the States are really well known. All the student body joins a frat or sorority, or all the students go and attend the team games and go to homecoming. Although UBC and many Canadian institutions offer all these different opportunities, we have Greek life, we have a vast athletics program. It's more common for students to participate in all the different activities that are most interesting to them. So you won't see the entire student population showing up for one or particular event. Instead, our motto is Tu m'est, or it is yours. So we encourage you take advantage of all those different unique opportunities, and then you'll meet more like-minded people that kind of have similar interests to you. So still lots of different opportunities. There's still going to be a lot of students at all those different events. But once again, there's no kind of one event or activity that you have to take part as a UBC student to get that experience.
Well, it's been a great tour of both the campuses. I wish I could go up and visit the Okanagan campus now, and I'm sure it's just like a beautiful winterland up there right now. And just thank you so much, Britt, for coming on down, as it were, and participating in our webinar. We'll be in touch with you, and I'm happy that some of my students have been applying to UBC, and they're excited and they're waiting to hear back, and so it's a very exciting time. So thank you again, and we will hopefully have you back in a number of years.
Well, thank you again for all of you for joining me and for having me here today. It's such a pleasure to chat with you all.
Thank you. And everybody who's attended, thank you so much for taking the time on a late afternoon. And I know you've enjoyed the tour from Britt's standpoint, and great to have you. So we'll be publicizing other events and other webinars as we invite other admission counselors. So we'll be sure to let you know. So thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time.